In looking at youth today, I have great optimism for them and great fear for them because they're facing things today that no generation in American history has ever faced. Quite frankly, they're a target in a way that none of us have ever been targets. And that is a historical and a biblical kind of truth. Look back to Moses. Moses is going to be the national deliverer, right? But it's going to be 80 years after his birth before he does so. But tell me why Pharaoh suddenly gets this inclination, I got to go kill all the Hebrew boys that are 2 years and below. How did Pharaoh know 80 years before it happened that there was a national deliverer in there, that young folk was going to change the nation? Same with Jesus. He's born. Who knows what Jesus is going to be? We've never had a Jesus before, but Jesus is born, and Herod says, oh, go to Bethlehem and kill all the kids that are 2 and under. And there's this thing where the enemy spiritually knows when something is happening from young people, and he's got to go destroy that generation. And so you look at where we are today. We live in a generation where we tell kids all the time, you got to go to college, you got to get your degree, you got to get an education. And yet we know statistically right now that between 71 and 88% of Christian kids will deny their faith while they're at college because the college atmosphere is so hostile. We have 2 legal groups that do nothing but deal with kids who get attacked for their faith in college. We get reports all the time from kids who walk in the classroom. The professor actually says, how many of you are Christians? They'll raise their hand and he said, you won't be when you leave this class. And he starts on them right then at that point in time. And it starts in the stuff that you know, he's got 14 PhDs and these poor kids don't have that, and he attacks them and they don't know how to defend themselves. They're getting it from the good guys and the bad guys that God doesn't do miracles, He doesn't get involved in history, and yet history shows that He does. So what young people need to be aware of is this is a very hostile time for you because I firmly believe we're in a national revival. But the characteristic of all revivals is it's transgenerational. You see, you go to the Great Awakening that started America, the American Revolution, you look at all the preachers that were there, and they all had these young guys running around with them. And so what happens is you got all the spiritual stuff happening, but there's a young generation coming up that gets it right. And they say, hey, we need to be independent from Great Britain. We need a free country. We need a Constitution, Declaration. And we finally in America have become a 51% pro-life nation. Great. Yeah, but you know what? Only 19% of young people are pro-abortion. Now, and the nation is 50-50. How did our young people get 25 or 30 points more pro-life than everyone that teaches them? More pro-life than the culture, more pro-life than their parents, more pro-life? It's because God has a young generation coming around that says, you got problems with Roe v. Wade? You guys have been praying about this for 40 years? I got a solution. I'm going to send you a generation that's going to get it right. The problem with that generation is you guys have to not be picked off, because there's a lot of spiritual impetus coming at you to shoot at you like it did with Moses, like it did with Jesus in Bethlehem. The enemy recognizes that you're a problem for his future plans. So that's why you need to be aware that God does intervene in your behalf. You need to be aware of what history is. You need to be aware of what the Bible says. Miracles do happen, and you need to expect them. You need to pray for them. You need to ask, why spend the time praying if you don't think God's going to answer your prayers? History shows that He does answer prayers. So be miracle-oriented, and do that by studying the Bible, by studying history, and by spending time on your knees. If you do that, you'll keep yourself safe from all the stuff that's coming after you in coming years to disable you and take you out of the battle, because we need you in the battle. You're key, but you have to have the right viewpoint.